We are live, and we are so excited to welcome all of our viewers today, whether you're joining us via live stream or after this event has posted. We are talking today with some of our incredible agents and Elise Levy of Citizens Bank. Elise Levy. And we're here today with Carson Alexander of the Carson Alexander team, who is joining us from, where are you again?
I'm outside of Austin, working on a flip.
On a flip house, so you have got to see this beautiful house that Carson purchased and has been renovating for the last few months. It's absolutely stunning, and he's getting ready to sell it soon. Can't wait to see what happens. And we are also joined by Andrew Cooper. Hello, Andrew.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, Andrew is one of our New York City agents who has been selling real estate for many, many years and is also a real estate attorney. He's closed about 900 transactions in Lincoln Towers alone, which is where he has been for many, many years. And so thank you for joining us. We are also joined by Jim McCartan of the McCartan Group. Good morning, Jim.
Good morning, everybody.
Hey, thank you so much for joining us. Jim is an agent in our New Jersey office, and he has a McCartan Group team. He's a really wonderful agent, a top agent in New Jersey, and a lot of experience. And welcome, Natalie Minyard.
Hello, hello.
Hi, Natalie.
Coming to you from the Hoboken house in Hoboken, obviously, Triplemint house in Hoboken. So very excited to get going here.
Yes, we always love having you. Natalie is our broker of record for New Jersey, and frequent guests are all of you. I think, Andrew, this might be your premiere episode, but the rest of you have been our guests in different programs, and we're always happy to have
my premiere.
It is your premiere, yes. Okay, that's what I thought. So we're going to just jump right in, because for those viewers, this is tailored to viewers who are either thinking about buying or are in the process of buying. And really, buying is for everyone. Whether you are ready now or sometime in the future, encourage you to get on the track to buy, because there's just so many reasons that you should be investing for your long-term benefit, from equity to, you could just make a lot of money. There's tax breaks. And so, not to mention the joy of owning your own home, which, based on appreciation, if you sell it one day, you could live basically payment-free, depending upon how much your home appreciates. So for those people who are considering buying, we wanted to give you some of the basics that you'll need to know when you are preparing the home buying foundation. And so we're going to start with you, Jim. Now, remind us, how long have you been doing real estate, selling real estate?
15 years.
Okay, so you've got quite a bit of information and knowledge to share about the process. And one of the things that we want to go through quickly is, what should a buyer expect? Like, managing someone's expectations. Over to you, Jim. How can they even just get into the right mindset? What to expect from buying?
Thank you so much. It is a critical point. I'm sure everyone on the panel would agree with me, but lately, because of rates, and you'll think because rates are low, it's much easier, but because rates are low, I'm trying to get my clients expectations on what rate they'll lock in at. They're reading the news, they're reading the blogs, and all they're hearing is rates are 2 7/8, rates are 2 3/4, rates are 2 7/8. So when they come to me, they have this mindset that they're going to get that rate. So my first conversation with someone is, how's your credit? We need to manage your expectations to find out what you can afford and what you can. And at the same time, it affords me the opportunity to get them pre-approved, maybe even when they don't want to. So I'm getting a credit report back, and I'm getting pre-approved. So I'm trying to manage their expectations on what rate that they might be able to get, because that will interpret what they're able to buy. I hope that is, I'm trying to be as brief as possible, but targeted as possible. I also have a very kind of technique I use when I meet a client, and it also helps manage expectations. I do it on the first conversation on the phone, and then I do it when I meet them. It's the 5 wants and needs. Now, there's always location, there's always price, so that's 2. The third one is either a residential, a co-op, a condo, or an investment. And once they fall into those, I know I can bring to the market to them, good market, bad market, at least location and the type of product they want. As far as price goes, They can tell me what their price is, but everyone always knows that, what you want, you're shopping sometimes for a Mercedes-Benz with a Volkswagen budget. So I try to manage those expectations, and that actually comes with part one. When they find out what they're pre-approved for, then they can actually give me that. But the fourth and fifth item on the 5 wants and needs are typically either configuration, whether they want 3 bedrooms, 4 bedrooms, and then the other one is typically something that, whether it's a 2-car garage or I need parking, I don't want to walk up, I want an elevator. And over my 15 years, I find that a lot of times I can usually hit on 4 of the 5 prior to the client even coming over. And if I can do that, I sit with them before we go out, whether it be in the parking lot, whether it be in my office, or at the first door that we're going to see. I tell them, if we hit on all 5 of those wants and needs that we covered, what do you guys think we should do? And typically they're like, well, if I get all 5, I probably should buy it. Exactly. So I have them saying that. And on the second item, I say that we get 4 of them, of the 5. What do you think we should do? And they're like, well, we should probably make an offer on it. So by the time I'm done with them on that first 6 or 7 showings that day, I have them thinking of making an offer or at least getting engaged, because sometimes first-time home buyer, they're very much hesitant to make that first step. I didn't look at enough products. I want to see, I need to see more product, or it's just not what I'm looking for. So at the end of it, I'm trying to corral them into, instead of 50 different wants and needs, it's coming down to 5. They also need to assemble, and someone else is going to talk about it, is I talk about the team all the time. If you have professionals going in, you have professionals at the end, you'll have a successful purchase or sale. But more importantly is I tell them now, especially now, it was on the call yesterday with the company, they need to monitor the current economic status worldwide. They need to keep an eye on that. Now, whether they're into that or not, I'm going to do some of that for them, because that is also managing expectations, because this time they decide to buy something or sell something, by the time we're getting serious, the market could have changed. It just did this past spring. It went from 2 7/8 to 3, up to 3 1/8. Some people saw 3 1/4. Now it's back to 2 7/8. So I really try to get them in that mindset of expecting, well, Jim told us this. And also, too, the final piece is my numbers. On Monday morning, I scrub the whole, whether it be Hudson or Bergen or Passaic or whatever I'm dealing in that week. I find out what 1 bedroom, what 2 bedrooms are going for, what went under contract, what's sold, because that information will also manage their expectations, because what they saw in the Zillow or somewhere else in the internet a month ago that was 550 could be now, after many closings, could be trending to 600. So on every Monday morning, I scrub the entire what I'm dealing with, people that are ready to buy or sell, and I pass that information along. So I think information, real market, real time, is something we should probably keep an eye on.
Okay, those are some great tips. And we have prepared a guide, because there's so much information that we're talking about today that it's impossible to talk about all of it. So we have prepared a guide that you will see in the, if you're viewing on LinkedIn, you'll see it in the description of the event. There's a link to a guide you can download that has a lot of details. It has a wish list that you can use, to Jim's point about identifying basically like your must-haves and your nice-to-haves, your wants and your needs. Use that guide, because it's very thorough and it's going to be very helpful to you. Okay, Jim. So that's a good kind of foundation for starting. Now, obviously, as a real estate firm, we promote our agents because we have incredible agents who really add so much value to the transaction. But some people don't really understand why they even need to use an agent. And so, Natalie, why would any buyer want to use an agent? What do you think are the main reasons someone should consider using an agent because you have to have a whole team, to Jim's point, a whole team of people to help you close. What's important about an agent?
Right. So first and foremost, what a lot of new people to the market don't realize, new buyers, is that it's really at no cost to them, because the commission and the compensation to the agents is already negotiated with the seller and the listing agent. And the listing agent then offers up our fee to cooperate as a buyer's agent. So it doesn't cost them anything. And like anything else, it makes sense. This is most people's largest investment, biggest purchase, huge decision. Why wouldn't you want someone in your corner that's actually looking out for your best, wants and needs and negotiating on your behalf, that's actually out there for you personally? So, to have your own personal representation, I think is, makes a lot of difference when you're out there trying to get the best price, get the right home, and, paying attention to the buyer's wants and needs. And then obviously finding the right agent. I think that this is a really important thing that I really want to drive home. Find an agent. This is the biggest decision a lot of people ever make. It's a huge financial decision. Find someone that you are comfortable working with, that you trust, that they have the experience, they're knowledgeable, and that you're going to enjoy being around for a little bit, because this is a process that you're going to be in for a few months or longer. And so making sure that you find the right agent that is communicating the way that you like, it's really going to add value to the process for you. Finding a local agent that is going to work with you from start to finish. I know a lot of people like to go out to open houses and bounce around, but to work with one agent that is going to really understand from start to finish what your needs are. You start to create a relationship and a partnership with this agent. And as you go and see different properties with them, you're going to understand, okay, they said they wanted this, but boy, they sure get excited about that. So if your agent is paying attention as you're seeing all these properties together, they're going to actually be able to help kind of streamline the process for you. They're going to be able to ask you questions that you may not have even asked yourself. They've been through this many, 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 many times. So there are things that as a buyer, you don't know. And so working with a local agent, and again, one local buyer's agent, instead of bouncing around, is so important to give you the best results. I would say that, to everybody's point, we've talked about this, assembling the strong team. I think we're probably each going to have a statement with that, but it's so important. You're finding a great agent. That great agent probably has a team of great attorneys and lenders and title company and inspectors. This is if you find the right agent, it's from start to finish, they're going to make this process smoother and easier for you. To discuss again, once they know what you're looking for, having an agent that, knows the market, now knows what you want, this is going to streamline the process. You're not going to be out seeing a lot of properties that you don't really like, or you kind of like, or you may miss out on something that this agent goes, based on everything that they said to me, I think they're really going to love this. I know they didn't see it. They didn't, maybe mention it to me, but I think they're going to love this. And, on top of that, they're also going to help you avoid some some road bumps, I guess we'll say. So, an agent that's been doing this a long time knows different buildings, knows the pros and cons of certain buildings. They should know the local zoning changes that might be coming up, the new businesses that might be coming into the area. There's a Whole Foods coming up in Jersey City where I do a lot of my business. And that's a big deal. So buying around there matters. Where is the next, is the traffic pattern going to change? We just had a street open up that had been only for pedestrians, and that actually changed the whole neighborhood. So having a local agent that you can trust and start building that relationship is really important to ending up with the home that you want for the rest of as long as you're going to be there.
Yeah. Okay, good. It's so true. It can make such a difference because people feel very empowered by online websites that have listings. And yes, they're great. You can search and browse and it's so much fun, but there's so much they don't tell you. And you really don't know what you don't know until you're in the process. So, like you said, what is the reputation that a building has in terms of whatever it might be? If somebody
soundproofing,
exactly, they might not know these things that you can enlighten them to that may change their decision, whether it's to buy or not to buy. Okay, great. And you mentioned, you need to pick somebody because you're going to be working with them for an extended period of time, somebody that you like. And
Yep.
Carson, you and Erin, your wife and your business partner for the Carson Alexander team, make a lot of really awesome videos on your social media pages. And one of them was about how to pick an agent. So how would you say somebody can make the determination of like, do I like this person? Do I want to work with this person for this extended period of time? What kinds of questions should people ask themselves to pick the right agent?
I think it's really helpful to think back on the last time you had a positive purchasing experience or a negative purchasing experience, which is kind of hard now because we buy so many things online. But when was a time that you were coached through a process that it went really well? When was a time that it went really bad? What do you respond well to? What do you not respond well to? One of my sisters bought a place and then she invited her agent to her wedding. She was clearly a certain kind of client, that wants to be buddy with the agent. And some people want some brokers who, sharpen their teeth in the morning. And you gotta find the right fit for you. So my mentor used to call it the first appointment is a chemistry meeting. Do you have chemistry? You're going to be in a business relationship with this person for a minimum of 3 months. Closing cycles are 2 to 3 months. So do you want to be in a relation with this person for 3 to 6 months? Are you going to, curse to yourself when you see their name pop up on your phone? Or are you going to be like, oh, great, I get to work with this person. I get to have a conversation with this person. Additionally, you can try and pick between an agent who's on a team and an agent who's an individual. Again, it's a personal preference. An agent who's on a team is going to have a little bit more resources, a little bit more ability to cover and work with your schedule. And an individual is going to be one-stop shop. And there's not a right answer there. It's all a personal preference. There's another saying that I have, real estate is not rocket science, but it is contextual. And what I mean by that is, I've done over 100 transactions. So I've seen a lot of things. And conversely, if I'm on a transaction where I have not ever seen this before, I'm going to tell my client, I've never seen this before. I'm going to be paying extra special attention to this issue. So you're not looking for, real estate is not some code that no one can crack. It just, the more you've done it, the better off you are at sort of bulletproofing transactions for your client. And then so I think some good questions to ask your agent are, how long have you been doing this? Have you helped people buy this kind of property before? Especially when my wife and I work with people who are buying sort of properties that are on the cusp between residential and commercial. Those are different transactions than say a co-op. Same thing. It's not rocket science, but it is contextual. And ask the agent, how do you see your role in this transaction? And different agents are going to have different perspectives on that answer. What kind of things do I need to watch out for is a really just good open-ended question to sort of learn more about that agent's process. And then what kind of questions am I not asking is kind of a good catch-all. So your agent can help share some of the things that maybe you guys haven't talked about yet. And then I think a really powerful conversation for both people involved, the client and the agent, is to have what's called an expectations conversation. What can I expect of you, and what do you expect of me throughout this transaction? Because that will save both parties a lot of potentially wasted energy and wasted time, as long as everyone's clear, this is my side of the street and this is your side of the street. Some people may not like, no one likes a pushy salesperson, I'm pretty sure. But some people, once they have all the information, do need some nudging. And that's really one thing that an agent can be really helpful with as well. And saying, I know that you don't want to rush into anything, but this opportunity, if you are interested, is time sensitive. So how does that make you feel? Something like that.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I, as a consumer, would definitely want that push. If I'm working with an agent who knows the market and can identify this is a really good opportunity, something that I might not know that, then certainly I want an agent who can be who tells me that, and that I feel comfortable hearing that from.
I think a good agent will also they'll also kind of warn you about properties, obviously, but also I've had several conversations with people and said, you know, hey, based off of everything that you're telling me, now is not the right time for you to buy. You know, let's stay in touch.
Yeah.
I'll monitor things for you. The market is going to move in your direction based off of your quality of life and everything. Let's put a pin in this, and let's come back in the spring and see what if anything has changed for you, and then go into the market.
Awesome. Yeah. And, you know, again, these questions that Carson just listed are in the guide, which I was saying earlier, they're in, if you're watching from LinkedIn, they're in the caption that's on LinkedIn. If you're watching from Facebook, they're there. And if you're watching on YouTube, they're there. And we're going to be posting this to Instagram eventually. It'll be in the link in the bio. Okay. Thank you so much, Carson. So, you know, in assembling your team, a real estate agent is only one person who is part of your team. There's actually quite a few people. And depending upon where you live, in New York, you're going to need a real estate attorney. Well, as I mentioned earlier, Andrew Cooper is a real estate attorney, but also a real estate broker. And so tell us a little bit about the real estate attorney and what's important about that relationship, Andrew. Like, for example, what is a real estate attorney? Why are they even needed in this transaction in New York? What are they going to do for the client, for the buyer?
Sure, good questions. So the buyer has listened to Natalie and to Jim and to Carson and Jim and selected a great broker. So what else do they need? What else does the buyer need to assemble a team that's going to take them as seamlessly and easily and maybe even pleasantly to the goal of owning a home or owning an apartment? So there are a number of people that you're going to want on your team. And without question, the most important one is going to be the real estate attorney. But you might say, oh, my mom just sold her condo in Florida, or my college roommate just sold his townhouse in Arizona. They didn't have attorneys. Why do I need an attorney? And it is true that in some places, in some jurisdictions, brokers prepare the contracts and title companies conduct the closings and distribute the money. And attorneys are not involved or minimally involved unless something blows up or goes wrong. But we're not in Kansas anymore. We're in New York. And in New York, real estate attorneys are critical to virtually every residential sale and purchase deal. So what's the attorney going to do for you? The ultimate goal of the real estate attorney is to make sure that at the end of the day, you own the property you want to buy and you have clear title to it. So how does she do that, or how does he do that? There are a number of things the real estate attorney is going to do for you. The first thing they're going to do is negotiate a contract that's fair to you and protects your interests. They're also going to order a title report or a lien search. A title report if you're buying real property, which includes homes and condos, and a lien search if you're buying a co-op. And those procedures, those documents that they order are going to tell the attorney and you whether there's any impediments to the seller conveying their property to you. In a co-op, the attorney is going to also do his due diligence. They're going to review offering plans and amendments. Offering plans are the documents pursuant to which a building is taken co-op from usually a rental. And they'll reveal any special considerations about that building, any special risks about that building that the attorney and through the attorney you want to know about before buying in that building. The attorney in a co-op will also typically review board minutes to see what kinds of things, usually for the last year, maybe two, usually to see what's currently going on in the building that may not be obvious elsewhere, whether there might be any litigation or any major projects that are going to cost a lot of money that could result in a major expense for you the day after you own the building. And at the end of the deal, the attorney is going to appear with you or maybe not with you, maybe by power of attorney or remotely nowadays, at a closing to review all the documents that are going to be signed and exchanged at the closing. And he's going to be making sure that you're paying exactly what you agreed to pay and any other expenses, which we'll get to in a minute, that might be involved, and that you are going to come out as the owner of this beautiful new home that you want to buy. So how do you find an attorney? Okay, the best way to identify an attorney is through referrals, assuming you don't already have one or know of one that you want to use. So there are two major places where you'll get referrals. One are through friends and family who might have gone through the process recently. If they did, they had an attorney. They may love the attorney. They may be really satisfied and are going to recommend them to you, and that's a great referral. If not from that kind of a source, then talk to your real estate broker. Your real estate broker has been involved, hopefully, in numerous transactions, recently. And in every one of those, your real estate broker has been involved with attorneys on both sides. That broker has seen who does a good job, who pays attention, who satisfies the clients, and who can get things done. And either of those sources are great sources to identify attorneys. And you certainly can identify more than one, talk to more than one, make comparisons, get a feel for who you're comfortable talking to and who you think is able to explain to you the questions you have about the deal. So when you're talking to the attorney.
Yes. Can you walk us through what some of the questions are that people should ask the real estate attorney when they're interviewing them?
That happens to be the next point on my list. Sure. So what questions do you ask when you're interviewing? One, maybe the most important thing is experience. Okay. You want to know, and you want to ask the attorney what kind of experience he's had and what kind of experience he's had with similar kinds of deals. As Carson said, real estate and being a real estate attorney in a real estate deal is not rocket science. But there is a familiarity that is helpful. And you'd like to have an attorney who has done this before and hopefully done this many times before. So he'll never see everything that could come up, but he's seen most things that could come up and be able to deal with it. An important distinction is you might be coming from the suburbs or from out of state and you're buying a co-op. And co-op is a bit of a different animal for attorneys. And attorneys who do 100% real estate in upstate New York or in Suffolk County may not be the best person to do co-op deal for you. It's not that they can't learn it, but it's that it might take time and might be distraction from the deal. If you're buying a co-op, you might also ask, have you done deals before in this particular building? That might be helpful. And another important thing you're going to ask is about their availability. If you're a seller, you want the attorney to be able to get your contract out within 24 to 48 hours. And if you're a buyer, you want your attorney to respond to a contract within 24 to 48 hours. If I'm a broker and I see a deal that's lagging and I see a buyer's attorney not responding within a week, I'm going to start to have questions. Is that buyer looking for something else and not really committed to this deal? Is there a reason that this is going to be a protracted proceeding? And I might say to my seller, you know what, if we have other options and other people who are looking to buy it, why don't we start thinking about that? Mm-hmm. So availability is another one of the important things. You want to be able to communicate with the attorney. You want to know if you're going to be talking to him or her assistant. And the assistant may be fine because they do this all the time, but you do want to know that there's a pathway for you to get the attorney's ear if possible. And importantly, also, you want to obviously discuss the fees. Most attorneys will work on either one of two bases, either a set fee, which they'll quote for you with possibly a caveat if some extraordinary things happen and they take a lot of time, or an hourly fee. You have to be comfortable with whatever you do. So when you hire the attorney's going to need some stuff from you. The attorney's going to want to know your understanding of the deal so he can make sure that the contract reflects what you understand it to be. He's going to want you to verify certain information on the deal sheet. Every time a deal is made, a broker immediately sends a deal sheet to the attorneys. The attorney should show that to you and make sure you're in agreement with all the terms the broker has represented they're going to be. He's going to want to know what personal property you understand goes with the deal or does not go with the deal, and any other conditions you think you've agreed to. Maybe you've told the owners they can have an occupancy agreement for a week or two after the deal closes. Those are things the attorney wants to know. And what should you get from the attorney? You want to know how the transaction is going to proceed. You want to know what the terms of the contract mean if you don't understand them. You want to review any additional costs, and there will be additional costs besides your purchase price for a buyer. If you're buying for something that's over $1 million, you'll be paying a mansion tax. If you're getting a mortgage on a house or a condominium, you may be paying a recording tax. There might be local taxes like land preservation taxes in Suffolk County. You'll be paying fees to the co-op board when you apply. In some rare cases, you might be paying even transfer taxes, which are usually paid by the seller, but are sometimes transferred when you buy from a sponsor. So you also want the attorney, you can expect the attorney is going to represent you at the closing, and you're going to expect that after the closing, he's going to send you a closing statement. So those are basically the things you have to consider when you're hiring an attorney to represent you. So
thank you so much. So thank you so much, Andrew. And in your years, I mean, obviously, because you're a real estate attorney, do you need to get an attorney also when somebody does a deal with you?
Absolutely. Number one, it's flattering you call me a real estate attorney when I did not grow up as a real estate attorney. I grew up as a litigator. And when I bought my apartment, I needed my law school roommate to represent me because I knew nothing about it. So I've learned, and I have done real estate, but I haven't done it for 15 years. And even if I did, there is no way in the world that I should be doing a deal as a broker and also acting as an attorney. That's just not something that you want to happen. As a broker, I want the deal to go through and I want to receive my check. And as a real estate attorney, there might be things I have to advise my buyer that might mean he may not go through with the deal. And there's no way that I should have that kind of a conflict of interest.
Of course, that makes so much sense. You know, and I misspoke earlier when I said New York State was one of the only places that requires a real estate attorney. New Jersey does too. So thank you, Natalie, for sharing that. And thank you so much, Andrew. We're going to go through the other remaining members of the team. And when I introduced Elise Levy, I really didn't give you the type of introduction that I gave everybody else. But Elise has been helping people buy homes with mortgages for 30 years, right?
Nearly 27.
Okay. And, you know, so one of the people that's on your team that people need to pick is a mortgage professional, right? And so first of all, there are some options when it comes to mortgage professionals. One, a person could choose to go with a mortgage banker like yourself, Elise, or they could use a mortgage broker who doesn't work directly with the bank, but rather is a broker who finds different rates and presents all of the options to the buyer, and then the buyer chooses. Now, you know, there are pros and cons in people's opinions. It's a matter of preference on whether you'd rather work with a banker or whether you'd rather work with a broker. Having worked on both sides of that transaction, Elise, what would you tell us about the differences between the broker and the banker in your experience?
And in my experience, I've worked at both. So I spent most of my career, the first 25 years of my career, at a mortgage company. We were mortgage broker, and then we got acquired, and then we were mortgage bankers. And 5 years ago, I went over to a regular bank, but I don't like to think of Citizens Bank as a regular bank because we're sort of unique. But if you were just to look at it black and white, a mortgage broker will work with many different banks to find different products and different rates, and they are not lending the money themselves. A mortgage banker can fund a loan, but they might not necessarily be lending the money themselves. They will also be sending it to a bank after that. And then there's the mainstream banks, which are lending their own money. And whether they're selling those loans or not is they might be keeping them, or they might be selling them. So the advantage of working with the mortgage broker is there's many options out there, but the disadvantage is they are not the direct lender. So they are not making the underwriting decisions, and they might not have direct contact with the underwriters. But whether you go either way, it's a matter of personal preference. Do you want to work with a bank directly, or do you want to work with somebody who's working with a lot of different choices?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Now, Citizens Bank, and I must add, is we are unique because we are a bank. We are lending our own money, but we have very aggressive products, which is why I made the switch. We'll do things like 90% financing up to $3 million on an interest-only product on a difficult building with a unique buyer, which makes this unique because we have products that maybe a mortgage lender might only have, but we have them at really aggressive rates.
Interesting. That's good. Yeah, because a lot of times when there is a unique circumstance, people will go to a broker because most banks aren't lending on those unique circumstances. So that's good that you have the best of both worlds there. So, okay. So Elise, what would you say in terms of, sorry, let me get this right thing here. Why is it important for someone to get a pre-approval before they start shopping for a property?
Well, first of all, you need to know what your purchasing power is. And you need to narrow down your search in order to save time for yourself and save time for your real estate professional. You want to narrow down your search. First of all, if you're looking at apartments or homes, you want to know what size apartment or home you should be looking at, because you don't want to spend all this time looking at 2-bedroom apartments or a 5-bedroom house when you're really only affording a 1-bedroom apartment or a 3-bedroom house. So you really want to narrow down your search in terms of size. Now, if we're talking about co-ops, which we see a lot of here in New York City, and we see them in New Jersey as well, versus a condo or a home, you want to narrow down your search that way, because you're going to qualify quite differently if you're purchasing in a co-op than if you're purchasing in a condo or a home. And the reason why that is because beyond the bank approval that you need, you're going to need co-op approval. And a co-op is always going to be much more strict than a bank will be. A co-op typically doesn't want your housing expense and your debts to take up more than 28% of your income, while the bank will allow it to take up 43 to 48% of your income. So you would be qualifying probably for double in a condo or a home than you would be for a co-op, because the co-op is going to be much more strict. And that's going to impact the purchase price range you're going to be looking in. So you really want to narrow down your search in that way. In addition, you want to get a pre-approval because you want to be able to gain access to look at an apartment or a home. Most real estate brokers are not going to allow you to even make an appointment to see a property if you don't have a pre-approval in hand. Another really compelling reason to get pre-approved is because of contracts that are not contingent on financing. When you sign a contract, you have to give a deposit of 10% of the purchase price typically when you sign that contract. And you want to make sure that when you make that 10% deposit, if the contract is not contingent on financing, and often in New York, to be able to be competitive in bids, you might have to give up your mortgage contingency, which puts that 10% deposit in jeopardy. So it's really important that you've been thoroughly pre-approved before you go ahead and sign a contract that is not contingent on financing, and to really know what your purchasing power is and how strong of a buyer you are.
Okay, that's all very important information to know, especially in this competitive market. You're not going to make an appointment to see a home with an agent who's essentially wasting your time and their own time if things are getting bid up on the first showing and there's a line out the door. by the time you try to get your pre-approval, that home is spoken for. So it's very important. We can't overemphasize that enough. Okay, and then what is next? What are the 3 parts of the loan approval process when when somebody wants to get their pre-approval?
There are 3 parts to a loan approval. Number 1 is the approval of the buyer. We're going to look at your credit, your income, and your assets. And then we're going to issue you a pre-approval based upon that. The second part of the approval, which is equally as important as the approval of you, your income, your assets, and your credit history, is if you're buying in a co-op or condo, it's the approval of the building. The building has their own financials that are reviewed. And if a bank doesn't like the building, they're not going to lend no matter how much they like you. So it's really important that when you're speaking to your mortgage professional, that you go back and you say, I saw this apartment, I love it. Here is the address or the name of the building. You want to make sure it's on their approved list, or to find out pretty quickly if they can lend there. And the third part of the approval is the appraisal. And that is a very important piece, especially if you're financing a lot, say 80 or 90%, because a lender will lend to you based upon the lesser of the purchase price or appraised value. So if by chance an appraisal for any reason were to come in lower than the purchase price, you might have to put a little bit more of a down payment. So it is important to know that.
Okay, thank you so much. And what factors are considered when getting a pre-approval?
Well, there are 4 main factors that we look at. Number 1 is income. 2 is your debts that you're carrying. 3 are the assets. And 4th is the credit history. Now, when it comes to the first one, income, there are different types of income to consider. And if we're looking at a salaried borrower, we're looking at their gross salary. So I always say salary is king. If you don't have a job yesterday and you have a job today and you have a salary, you are good. So we go by whatever the salary that you're receiving now. It's different though when you're a self-employed person, because you do need to have a history, typically of 2 years, because we're going to look at a 2-year history of your tax returns. And we are going to take an average of that as long as it's increasing. But if the current year is lower, and we're seeing that oftentimes a lot in COVID, the current year is lower or the year-to-date is lower, we're going by the most current income. And if we see variable types of income like hourly income, we are also wanting to see ideally a 2-year history on that and consistent earnings. Other types of earnings would be rental income. If you own rental property and it's a new rental property, we'll use 75% of the rental income. If it's an established rental property, we're looking at tax returns to develop a 2-year income stream from that. And it's also very important to know that if you changed employment types, that could impact your financing. So as I mentioned, if you didn't have a job yesterday or you were self-employed yesterday, but you have a salary job today, we're using 100% of that gross salary. But if you're salaried today and you decide tomorrow to go self-employed, that's going to be a problem because we do need a 2-year history on a self-employed person. So if you were thinking about a job change and you were going to go from a salaried job to self-employed, you might want to keep the job until you can get your mortgage.
Yes.
The second part of it is debts. We're going to look at any minimum monthly payments that you're paying on any car loans, student loans, credit cards, and if you are paying any type of alimony or child support. When it comes to the third part, assets, we are going to be looking at the funds that you're needing for closing, which includes the down payment, the closing costs, and money that you need left over in reserves. That's very important because not only do you need enough money for the down payment and the closing costs, banks will have their guidelines on how much money they want you to have left over. It could be anywhere from 2 months to up to 2 years worth of payments left over. And if you're buying in a co-op, they often want to see that you have at least 2 years worth of funds left over.
Okay, great. Anything else to add to the factors when getting pre-approved? Oh, wait,
Yeah.
credit. Okay.
Credit. So credit is very important because ultimately your interest rate is going to depend on how good of a credit score that you have. And it didn't always used to be that they would score credits. you could just have a very good mortgage professional that would help you write a good excuse, but now your credit is scored. So ideally, to get the best rate, you want to have a credit score of 740 or above. So you can figure, as a general rule of thumb, that for every 20 points that your score goes down, that's going to increase your rate by an eighth or a quarter. So that could be a big deal. If your credit score is 680, you might be paying 3/4 of a point more in your mortgage rate. So credit score is very important in terms of being able to get the mortgage and in terms of the interest rate you will achieve.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, and that can make a big difference. I know when we were preparing for this, we saw that the difference between somebody with a very low credit score and a very high credit score in their mortgage payment, there's a difference of like 22%. It's 22% higher for the person per month, and obviously over the life of the loan, it's much more if their credit is poor. And so, okay, this is all very good and very important information. And with rates today being below 3%, that's a really good opportunity. Would you agree?
Absolutely. There's definitely people right now who are so incentivized to buy because rates are so low. And when money is this cheap, it's really easy to for it to make sense for you to purchase at this time.
Absolutely. Okay, well, this is a very important conversation for anybody who wants to buy. All of these elements of the transaction are a great foundational piece. So thank you again. Thank you all for your guidance. I think, obviously we want our viewers to know that Elise Levy with Citizens Bank and then our team members, Carson Alexander, Natalie Minyard, Jim McCartan, and Andrew Cooper are all a wonderful resource. They have done so many transactions. They have that context that makes the home buying process much more seamless for buyers. And so I encourage you to reach out to them. You can also reach out to us. Now we've gone 45 minutes, but there's so much more to say, which again is why we've created that downloadable guide. So we encourage you to download the guide. And in our next episode, we're going to continue the conversation about how to take on next steps in buying, how to start the actual home search, going shopping. That's the really fun part. I think we might all agree on that. And so just want to thank you all for joining us, for being with us, and for sharing your knowledge. And we hope to hear from our viewers who are looking to buy. So thanks, everyone. Thanks for tuning in.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.